Hi, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we're going to be making this block. It's actually called the bow tie block. The first thing I did was, once I got mine put together, I did do up a sample because I wanted to see exactly how top stitching was going to work once I put a color thread that coordinated with my background color. So I am going to show you how I did this one, but here is my final block, and I'm also showing you how I do this one. Couple of things I wanted to go over with you. First off, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And the other thing I wanted to do was to show you the very few notions that I used that came in handy when making this block. First of all, I always have my rotary cutter around. So I prefer the Olfa, the 45mm rotary cutter, and the reason why I do, right now it's locked, I like the fact that when I squeeze on the handle is when the blade comes out. It's quick and easy for me to lock because we all know we end up with children and grandchildren in our sewing area every once in a while, and we want them to be protected. One of the things I have learned is I do mark mine up somehow so that I know that it's mine, because these things are wonderful to work with, and quite a few people have them, and it's easy to get them mixed up. The next thing I did use was Clover's fusible web. Now this one is just under 1/4 of an inch. It actually says it's 5 millimeters, and I use this quite a bit. As you can see, I think it's time for me to get a new container of it, so I'm going to have to get one of those pretty quick. The other thing I used was my Karen K. Buckley scissors. I've used Karen K. Buckley scissors now for probably about 3 years, and I really like them. There's a couple of reasons why I really like them, but one of the biggest reasons is because when I'm sitting at my sewing machine, these actually sit right behind my machine. So as I'm stitching, if I all of a sudden need to clip something, I just reach out, grab it, bring it back, clip it, and then set them back out there again. They are always within a hand's reach of me, and I not only have these, I also have the purple ones, and I also have the little green embroidery scissors, and recently I acquired the utility scissors. So you can see I am definitely a Karen K. Buckley fan. So those are my scissors. And the last thing that I use that I can tell you is a really nice notion to have around, and I've used it for years. You can see it's starting to get a little beat up. I've had this thing for at least 8 years, if not longer. What this did is it really helped me with pressing my seams open. On this block, you can see I pressed all of my seams open. And the main reason why I did that was because I wanted as least amount of bulk right here as I could get, because I knew I was putting another piece of fabric over the top of it. And to me, it was important that this lay flat and that nothing happened in the center of it. While I was working on this, I really thought that what would be cool is if I embroidered something on the top of that. I'm almost thinking I may still do it, but right now I'm going to let it sit the way it is. So this is my block. If you'd like to see how I went about making it, stay tuned and I'll show you how. Today we're going to work on a really quick and easy block, and it's called bow tie. So we're going to have fun making this little one. I think these fabrics are perfect for it because of the size of the design. I think it's going to look really fantastic. So let's get going on it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press all of my fabrics. Then once I have my fabrics pressed, I'll come on back, cut them out, and then I'll come back to you and show you what I've got and what we're going to do. Here we go. This block is by far the easiest block that we're going to be making. And the reason being is because it's simply a 4-patch. One thing I would suggest when doing this is you are going to want to turn your fabrics potentially just a little bit to highlight different parts of the fabric. And the reason for that is because we're going to be placing a square over the center of it, and the square is actually going to go like this. So what we want to do, or what I want to do in this instance, is I want my cornflowers to show. I don't want to bury one of my bumblebees underneath this or any of that. So I did turn them, you just watched me, just a little bit. So how I'm going to put this together is these two first, then these two. I will press it, probably open, and then I'll sew it together into a 4-patch. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you a couple of hints on how to deal with this center piece, because it's important that we kind of get this little thing all squared up, okay? So I'll be back in just a few minutes. We're going to do a little practice piece before we get going on our block. I've taken some scraps and I've just made a block. I didn't make it as big as the block we're going to be working on, but I just made up a block. Now I need to take this, and our little square needs to set at some specific points on this. So you can see what I need to do is line up my points with my seams. Now you've got a number of different ways you can do this. You could do it raw edge applique, and what raw edge is you would just stitch right down here, crossed, across, up, and up. If you do that, I would suggest that you first put some fusible interfacing down. Any type of lightweight fusible interfacing, just to hold it a little bit, give it a little bit more stiffness, and to also kind of help adhere the edges, because raw edge applique is exactly what it sounds like. It's raw edge and it's an applique. What I want to do though is I want to fold my raw edges under, and I want to top stitch applique. I could also do a buttonhole. You can do that raw edged, or you can do a buttonhole with your seam folded over. That's completely up to you. But what I suggest that you do is get a piece of material and let's figure out what you want yours to look like before you go sewing on your actual fabric. So what I want to do is I want to turn my edges under 1/4 inch, and then I want to top stitch. And I'm going to show you exactly how I go about top stitching it. One of the things with a top stitch applique that you have to be really careful of, and because I'm a long armer, I'm aware of this, whereas someone else who doesn't run a long arm or doesn't free motion quilt on their domestic sewing machine, you may not necessarily know this. But if you take your piece, and let's say this is an exaggerated fold, and I know it is. Let's say you did this, you folded it like this, and you laid it down. But when you stitched it, you didn't stitch on the edge. You stitched in, oh, let's say, let me grab a pin and show you. Let's say you stitched in all the way here. Well, what happens when the hopping foot comes across the fabric, it can catch this, and it can pick it up, and it can move it around. It can actually get caught in the hopping foot of a long arm. So you want to be very careful that that does not happen. All right, so now that I have messed with that a little bit, I'm going to press it again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Clover fusible web, and what it is it's nice little, is it even 1/4 inch? It's not even 1/4 inch fusible tape. So what I do with this is I'm going to start by using the opposite two sides. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to cut it off with just by ripping it, because it just rips so easily. You can just grab it and rip it. Then I'm going to come back, I'm going to lay it down, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Try to keep my hands out of it. And I'm going to line it up to my edge of my fabric, or as close to my edge as I can get. All right, so I think that's pretty darn close. And I'm just going to touch it with the tip of my iron. I'm going to rotate it only because it's easier for me to work with it like this. And I'm going to do that again. So I'm taking it right out to the edge, and I'm going to tap it again. All right, now I'm just going to lay my iron on it, and I'm going to count to maybe 3 or 4 seconds. All right, that piece is down. I'm going to let that cool. In the meantime, I'm going to take another piece of it from here to there, and I'm just going to rip that piece off. Now I'm going to do the same thing again. And it truly does help to line it up if you just tap on the start or the end, whichever you're considering it, just to adhere it down a little bit. It does make a difference. So there's my first tap. And be careful because that is hot there. And here comes my second tap. Now I'm going to lay my iron down on it again. Now I've been told that you can also just fold it in half and it'll rip, but that's never worked for me. So I'm going to take a straight pin and I'm just going to score it. And when I do that, look how easy it is to remove it. Okay, there's one side off. I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to fold this under. See, I folded it under. And I'm also using my fingers to kind of roll it right to the edge so that it's in there tight. I'm going to tap one side, then I'm going to tap the other side, and then I'm going to lay it down. All right, and it is moving, but I'm just going to tap it down again, and it's hot, so be careful. As it cools, it will stay in place. All right, there. Now it's staying in place for me. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Score it. Take my tape off. Or the paper. It's not tape, it's paper. Oops. I gotta tell you, I gotta stop trimming my nails while I'm painting. It's driving me nuts. Right? I've rolled it a little bit. And I'm going to tap one side. Put it down. I'm going to roll it again. Tap the other side. Now I'm going to lay my iron down. All right, now I'm going to fold it over and I'm just going to let it sit for a second and cool off because it is hot. Okay. Now I need to do that again to the next two sides. So here we go. First piece. And just keep doing the same thing you did the first time. Okay. Take it as close to the edge as you can get it. Flip it. Now, I've got a little bit extra hanging over the end, and I do not want to get this all over my ironing board or a pressing mat or anything like that. So I'm just going to cut it with a pair of scissors. Did I cut it far enough? Nope. Gotta make one more little cut. Yeah. Took a little bit more off that time, but it's necessary. Set my iron down. Pick it up, set it all the way down. Now there are times that I do have to take a pin and just hold it down for a minute till it cools off, and that's fine. That won't hurt anything. Okay. My last side. Take it down to the edge. Turn it around. Okay. Now just set it all down. Hold it for a minute. Alright. So now I'm ready for the next side, but I gotta let that cool off. Sometimes I have this habit of trying to do it really fast, and then what happens is it didn't cool correctly and I end up with a little bit of a mess. I'm gonna just score both of them while I'm here with my pin, and that is a plastic head pin, so I'm going to stick it right back into my pin cushion because I won't like it if that gets all over everything. And now I'm going to do it again. Here we go. I'm going to press that corner. And then I'm going to press the next corner. I may have to pick it up to do it. Sometimes it does help to just pick things up and hold them for a minute. Okay. And now, whoops, and I'm going to fold it right down along, and I'm going to press again. Now, yep, I thought that was happening. So now I am going to hold it down just for a second, just till it cools off a little bit, only because it will help to keep it there for me. But it's hot, okay? All right, now I'm going to flip it over. And I like to flip it over because then the weight of itself kind of helps to hold it down a little bit. And I'm gonna press it for a second. There we go. Now I'm gonna let this cool. They never cool fast enough for me. And then I'm gonna take this side off. And then this side. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Now you can see mine's not sticking down perfectly, but what it's gonna do is it will stay down as I go through the process of top stitching it down, and you'll see when I get over there. All right, so now, oh, that's hot. I'm gonna hold that down, and I'm gonna give it a press from the top. Right. Now, if you have a hard time getting it to stay, there's nothing wrong with taking a few pins. Let me grab a couple more. Right. Grab a couple of pins and just stick them in there while it cools. That'll hold it in place. That's another reason why these wool mats are so nice. There. Now it's just going to stay in place and it's going to dry and cool off just a little bit, and then it will be ready for me. Now we're good. All right, I'm gonna grab some of my glass head pins here. I want a few of them. Let me see, I need one more. All right, there, I've got 4 glass head pins now. So now that I've got my pins, let me move these out of the way. I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to line it up with all 4 of my seams. I'm lined up, I'm going to take my pins, I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to pin it right down. All right, take my next one, do the same thing, turn it. I'm going to turn it one more time. I need to make an adjustment here for certain. Right, so that it lays right there. This is where I'm a little tight, so I'm going to loosen that up. Go back. There we go. Now that's laying better. One more pin. And I'm going to line that one up. I'm going to pin that down. All right, there's my first one all done. Now remember, this is my practice. Now I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine. I'm going to take you with me and show you how I top stitch it down. All right, it's time to top stitch down our block to our bow tie block. I have aligned it so that my points on my block are matching my seams. So that's where that belongs. The other thing I've done is I've changed my foot to a 10D. I have engaged my dual feed. Now the dual feed is something that I did not have on my last machine, and I will be really honest with you, I am thrilled to death that my B790 Plus has got it on there. Makes a big difference when I'm sewing. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this edge of the 10D foot, which is also called the edge stitch foot, and I'm lining it up against the fold on the patch that I will be top stitching. I've got it lined up really well. I'm going to now push my hover so my foot goes down and it just does what it says. It hovers above my fabric so that I can make sure that I'm nicely lined up, which I am. The next thing I'm going to do is I can either with my presser foot or with a function on the front of the machine push my foot all the way down so that I can make certain that my fabric is down and secure underneath my presser foot. So I've done that. The next thing I need to do is I can see that I'm right on the very, very edge, almost off the edge of my fabric. And I want to top stitch right on the edge. So I'm going to go over and use another Bernina feature, which is to move my needle to the left or to the right. In this instance, I'm going to move it to the left. And I moved it one click and that was it. So my stitch length is 2.0. I do have my 10D foot on and I'm going to start stitching. You can see I am taking it slow. There's no reason to rush through this. I want to do a really nice job. One of the main reasons why I'm making certain that I'm doing it right on the edge is because when I go to long arm this on my machine, I want to make sure that my hopping foot does not pick my fabric up and roll it over. All right, I've gotten to the edge. I'm going to use my hover foot again, which is just wonderful, or I could use my knee lift. But in this case, I'm going to use my hover. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to turn my fabric, and then I'm going to lower my presser foot. I'm right where I need to be, so I'm just going to start stitching again. Again, taking my time. I'm not in a rush. I want to be right there at the edge, so I'm going to let the machine do its thing, and I am just going to continue to sew to my next corner. I'm there again. I'm going to hover, turn my fabric, and then I'm going to lower my presser foot again. Time to keep going. hover again, rotate it. Oh, I can't wait to show you what this looks like. It just looks fantastic. That time I just lowered my presser, but I didn't even do the hover because I could see that I was right on where I want it to be. I'm going to clip this little thread right here. And now I'm going to stitch again. And with my dual feed, it's just taking the fabric exactly how I want to. I'm not pushing the fabric. The machine is doing all the work and I'm just guiding it gently. That's all I'm doing. Slowing down as I get to the edge. One more stitch, that was it. I'm going to hover again. I'm going to rotate. And then I'm going to put my foot down. Here we go. This is right back to the end. I am going to do a little back stitch, 1, 2, and now I'm going to cut my thread. And wait until you see this. It is just, I think it's fabulous. I think it looks great. I think with the thread combination, you're going to be really difficult to see. Here it is. I'm going to take you back over to my cutting table though, so you can really see it. But I think it's going to be really difficult for anybody to tell that I actually top stitched that down and I didn't needle turn it, which is really exciting to me. So I'll meet you back over at my cutting table. I've brought my piece back over and I have sprayed it with Best Press. And now I'm going to do just what it says, Best Press. Get my piece nice and pressed down, and then I can show you how nice my block came out. Now sometimes you may want to use a interfacing underneath there or Steam-A-Seam 2 underneath there. I didn't use anything. Lots of times people do, whoops, I got a little fold over going there. Lots of times people do use Steam-A-Seam to be able to hold it all in place, but you could see my 4 pins did the same thing, and I didn't have to buy Steam-A-Seam for it, but there's my block. And can you see, I'm gonna bring the camera really close. You ready? All right, let's see if, I'm gonna turn this so that you can see my corner. Can you see my stitches? They're right there. Look at it. You really, really can't see them. So I am thrilled with the way this block came out. So that's how I went to putting together block number 10 of the Springtime Sampler using Robin Pickens' Painted Metal fabric line. And I just am so excited with how it's turned out. We've done 4 blocks now for October, so all 4 of our October blocks are done. We started out with Old Maid's Puzzle. We did 2 blocks for the Old Maid's Puzzle in 2 different colorways. Then we also did the double Irish chain or Irish chain. And this is our last one, which is our bow tie block. Thanks so much for sticking around all the way to the end while we made our bow tie block out of our Painted Metal collection for our Springtime Sampler, which I'm really getting excited about. I think this thing is going to look gorgeous in all of our bedrooms come, let's see, if we get it done in March, let's say we get it quilted by the end of April. In May, it'll be on our beds just in time for May Day. Maybe we'll make it on May 1st. That would be fantastic. This is my block. Please do post pictures of your block in our Facebook group. I really want to see how everybody's doing. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them below. And I'd like to know which one out of the 4 we've done so far, well actually 3, is your favorite block. I almost think that at this stage, block number 11, Old Maid's Puzzle, is my favorite. But I want to hear which one's your favorite. Please do hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel here at YouTube, please do so. And I hope to see you really soon over on our Facebook group. Thank you, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye, everybody.